For one of the best deals in town, swing by Walters for brunch. For just $20, you can add bottomless Bloody Marys, mimosas, Trulies, and Bud Lights with a purchase of an entree. Sunday, the round of 16 in the Euros gets going. Make your reservation for a busy weekend at waltersdc.com/reservation.
When you do come to Walters, make sure to check out their spicy chicken. Cold beer, a great sandwich with fries, and a big screen TV is a tough combo to beat.
Swinging a fly ball to deep right. Soto going back, way back, running out of room. It is gone. Goodbye. John Birdie the other way toward the right field corner with an opposite field home run, his fourth of the year. And the Marlins have regained the lead 3-2.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Sunday, June 27th, 2021. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off, so we hope that he's enjoying some time with his family and some time away from watching this Nationals offense, which all of a sudden is back to being offensive. What happened to the bust out? What happened to the offense being better? You know, the Nats during their stretch of 10 wins in 11 games scored at least 5 runs in each of 6 of the wins. You felt like, all right, the offense certainly isn't perfect, but it's coming around. It's performing better. Well, here we are now. Nats now have scored just 2 runs in each of the team's last 2 games. An 11-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on Friday night and a 3-2 loss at the Marlins on Saturday, as yes, the Nats now are in danger of losing 3 of 4 at the lowly Marlins. Not good. Now, I get it. Miami does pitch well, and that needs to be taken into consideration. But given the offensive struggles of the Nats for so much of this season, you don't just write off these offensive struggles to the Marlins being a good pitching team. You also have to say, well, this is a bad offensive team, and the Nats, that's back to being a bad offensive team, at least over these last few days. Thank goodness the ace, the stopper, Max Scherzer is pitching on Sunday, because losing 3 of 4 at Miami really would be nothing short of highly disappointing. Although starting for the Marlins on Sunday is a guy who also has been really good so far this season. More on that in a bit. But with this 3-2 Nats loss at the Marlins on Saturday, you get the Nats scoring just 2 runs, totaling just 7 hits, working just 3 walks, striking out 13 times, and going 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And this was another instance of the Nationals getting worked, getting dominated by a pitcher who essentially had no business working and dominating the Nationals. The Marlins starter on Saturday was Zach Thompson. He was making just his 4th major league start. He ended up allowing 2 runs in 6 innings with 11 strikeouts. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, who is Zach Thompson? Maybe he's some phenom who's been rising up the ranks of the Marlins system. Look, Zach Thompson has some talent. Maybe he ends up being a really good starting pitcher, but understand Zach Thompson was taken by the Chicago White Sox in the 5th round of the 2014 MLB draft, and yet he owned the Nats on Saturday. And the Nats, when it came to delivering with runners in scoring position, basically just could not produce at all. Again, 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position and some killer missed opportunities over the final 3 innings. Nats in the top of the 7th failed to score despite a leadoff double by Josh Harrison. The Nats in the top of the 8th failed to score despite a 1-out single by Josh Bell and a 2-out walk by Starlin Castro. The Nats in the top of the 9th failed to score despite a leadoff single by Josh Harrison. I mean, the Nats were in business in each of the final 3 innings to, varying extents. The Nats had opportunities in this game, but ultimately just 1 hit with runners in scoring position, just 2 runs for the game. And, going back to this thing of the Nats struggling against pitchers against whom the Nats have no business struggling, what happened on Saturday against Zach Thompson is just the latest instance of the Nats struggling against someone who had no business doing so well against the Nats. I mean, you just go back to some recent games. June 3rd, a 5-1 loss at the Atlanta Braves. The Nats in that game getting totally shut down by Tucker Davidson, who was taken by the Braves in the 19th round of the 2016 draft. Davidson was making just his 3rd career major league start, tossed 5 2/3 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts. You go back to last weekend, the Nats in their 1-0 win over the New York Mets at Nationals Park on Friday night, June 11th. They, yes, won the game, but scored just the 1 run. The Mets starter for that game, Joey Lucchesi, entered the game with an ERA of 5.18. He ended up tossing 5 1/3 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts. The next day, game 1 of that doubleheader against the Mets, the Saturday afternoon game, the 5-1 Nats 7-inning loss The Nats in that game scored just the one run. The Mets starter in that game, David Peterson, comes into the game with an ERA of 5.60. He ends up allowing one run in 4 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts. This has happened way too often this season. It's one thing to struggle against the Jacob deGroms and the Brandon Woodruffs. It's another thing to struggle against the Tucker Davidsons and the Joey Lucchese's and the David Petersons and now the Zach Thompsons. We are adding all kinds of names to this list of starting pitchers who have no business dominating the Nats the way these pitchers have so far this year. Nats offense has regressed over these last 2 games. There's no doubt about that. And, I mentioned how the Nats did offensively in scoring at least 5 runs in 6 of the 10 wins during the stretch of 10 wins in 11 games. You also have this, remember, the last 2 games of that stretch, the Nats totaled 20 runs. I mean, it felt like, okay, this offense is starting to bust out. And then you get what we got here over these last 2 games. Among those who struggled for the Nationals offensively on Saturday was, yes, Kyle Schwarber. Unfortunately, he's not going to homer in every game for the rest of his career. And Kyle Schwarber, starting left fielder, number 1 batter, 0 for 4 with a walk and 3 strikeouts on Saturday. He had a 1-out, 6-pitch walk in the top of the 5th, but he had a weak ground out with Josh Harrison on 3rd, 1 out, and the Nats trailing 3-2 in the top of the 7th. Trey Turner, your starting shortstop and number 2 batter. Rough game for him, 0 for 4, did draw a walk, but he left 3 men on base. The walk, a 1-out, 5-pitch walk, and a Nats 1-run first, so that was good to see. But Trey popped out to first baseman Jesus Aguilar in foul territory with Josh Harrison on 3rd, 2 outs, Nats down 3-2 in that top of the 7th inning. That fail of the Nats not scoring in that top of the 7th, that was brutal. That had big inning written all over it, with Harrison getting on with the leadoff double, and then you had 3 big guns come up to the plate. Ryan Zimmerman as a pinch hitter, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner. Nats went line out, ground out, pop out. Zimmerman, Schwarber, Turner, all failing to deliver with Josh Harrison in scoring position in that top of the 7th inning. Gerardo Parra, the baby shark. He was the Nats starting center fielder and number 7 batter on Saturday, but no such baby shark magic on display, at least not on Saturday. 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He left 4 men on base. Parra with a first pitch fly out to center field with runners on 1st and 2nd and 2 outs in the top of the 8th inning. And I mentioned Ryan Zimmerman. Look, I don't want to trash Zimmerman. He overall has done a lot for the Nats so far this year. He was only utilized as a pinch hitter in this game on Saturday, but him lining out to right with Harrison on 2nd and nobody out in that top of the 7th, it was the latest instance of Zimmerman not delivering. And, Ryan Zimmerman really has cooled off here lately. Ryan Zimmerman's slugging percentage for the season has fallen by 97 points since the start of games on June 11th. His slugging percentage for the year has gone from 590 to 493 since the start of games on June 11th. This loss on Saturday was on June 26th. I mean, June 11th isn't that long ago. It's a little more than 2 weeks ago. And yet Zimmerman's slugging percentage, which had been sky high, right? All those home runs, well, the homers have dried up here lately. And Zim has not been doing much when he's been called upon. And again, that slugging percentage down 97 points since the start of games on June 11th. There were a few offensive bright spots for the Nats. Juan Soto did have an RBI double.
And here's the pitch, swung on, line drive, left center field. That is it's missed by Sanchez. I don't know how it gets by him. Turner on his way to 3rd. He makes the turn. He's heading home.
A 1-out first pitch, opposite field, ribby double to left center field and the top of the 1st on a ball that got by Marlins left fielder Jesus Sanchez. Soto did strike out a couple of times, but good to see him deliver there with the extra base hit and deliver in a spot that ended up scoring a run. Josh Harrison did not get on base multiple times. A couple of hits for him, 2 for 4 with a double and a single. He was a Nats starting 2nd baseman and number 8 batter. Harrison with a leadoff double, top of the 7th, leadoff single in the top of the 9th. But the Nats failing to score Harrison in both of those innings. Starlin Castro considers to hit actually pretty well, at least by Starlin Castro standards. Number 6 batter for the Nats was Castro on Saturday, 1 for 3 with an RBI double and a great walk as well. So I want to talk about the RBI double for a moment.
Here's Castro, and Castro lines one for a base hit in left center field up the alley. Marte, does he cut it off? We can't see him. Now the ball gets away. Gomes racing for 3rd, is going to try to score. Here's the relay throw home from Rojas. Gomes slides in safely.
It was a 1-out first pitch RBI double to left center field in the top of the 4th in an instance of very generous scoring by the official score. The Marlins center fielder Starling Marte and the Marlins left fielder Jesus Sanchez nearly collided. Marte ended up kicking the baseball. The play really should have been a hit and an error, Instead, Castro got hit for a double. So in the box score, the hit reads like something that was smashed off the wall. In reality, this was a little different than that. Marlins had some defensive issues in left center for whatever reason on Saturday, especially with Jesus Sanchez. But, right there is one of those classic instances of, because it's not obvious who is truly guilty of the error, nobody gets an error. I mean, I don't really get why the official scorer couldn't have just assigned the error to the center fielder Marte. He was the guy who kicked the baseball. But whatever. Maybe the official scorer was like, well, maybe that's more on the left fielder Sanchez, even though he never ended up touching the baseball. But how about this? Why not team errors for those instances in which it's not clear who is guilty of the error? Or what about half errors? In football, we have half sacks. Official scorers assign half a sack to each of two guys when you have multiple guys responsible for the sack of a quarterback. How about half errors in baseball for a spot like what happened there with Starlin Castro on Saturday? I mean, it just seems ridiculous to me that Castro got credit for a double on a play like that. But whatever the case, Castro does officially get a double in that spot. And Castro drew a terrific 2-out, 8-pitch walk in the top of the 8th inning, despite having been down in the count at one point. 0-2. That was a really good piece of hitting there by Castro. And so for Starlin Castro now, and I referenced this on the previous installment of the Nats Chat podcast, he has been better here lately. Starlin Castro now is 10 for his last 26 with 5 doubles, 5 singles, and 2 walks. That's a span of 7 games right there. That's pretty good. I mean, all things considered. Again, he, is Starlin Castro. He's not hitting for like any homers. He still doesn't draw nearly enough walks. But he's got some doubles here lately. I mean, 5 of his last 10 hits are doubles. He's 10 for 26 with a couple of walks over the last 7 games. So good to see that here with Starlin Castro, who, remember, recently was dealing with a family issue that caused him to go on the restricted list for a few days. Yan Gomes had a couple of hits on Saturday. Actually got on base 3 times. That was nice to see. He had 2 singles and a hit by pitch, 2-out single top of the first, 1-out hit by pitch in the Nats 1-run 4th, and a 1-out first pitch single in the top of the 6th inning. And Josh Bell was back, so that in and of itself was a positive. Remember, he got scratched from starting game 1 of this series, the Thursday night game, due to his right side bothering him. He on Friday underwent an MRI exam, which came back clean. And so Bell was the starting first baseman and cleanup batter for the Nats in this loss at the Marlins on Saturday, 1 for 4 with a single and a couple of strikeouts. All right, so we have all had that dream. Tie game, bottom of the 9th, bases loaded. Well, on FanDuel Sportsbook, you get more than just one shot to swing for the fences. That's because FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free. You heard that right. New users get up to $1,000 back in side credit if your first bet doesn't win. And it only gets better from there. Once you have an account, you'll have access to same-game parlay insurance all season long. That's up to $25 back in side credit each day if your same-game parlay bet falls one leg short. This way you can combine multiple baseball bets for an even bigger win. There's a reason that FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook. The app is simple to use. It's got great odds on all different betting markets, unique fun bet types like same-game parlay and always-on promotions to let you get more action out of every game day. And when you win, FanDuel will pay you your winnings in as little as 24 hours. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and sign up with promo code CHAT to get in on the action. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code CHAT. And games on Sunday afternoon include the Major League worst Arizona Diamondbacks at the San Diego Padres at 4:10. Starting for the Padres, Yu Darvish, who has an ERA of 2.50 on the season. We shall ride the Padres.
21 plus and present, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, or West Virginia. First on my real money wager, only for risk-free bet. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site. Credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-9-WITH in Indiana. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-GAMBLER, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Virginia, Tennessee. 1-800-889-9789. Or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net.
Left-hander comes set. He kicks, he delivers, and a fastball is lined to right center field. That's going to be a base hit. Soto cuts it off in the gap and fires it in. Rounding third and coming home is Aguilar. Holding it first is Rojas, an RBI single. 4 for 10 of the series. Drives in his 21st run of the year, and the Marlins take the lead 2-1.
The Nats starting pitcher in their 3-2 loss at the Miami Marlins on Saturday was Patrick Corbin. As yes, we got another chapter in the story that is Patrick Corbin in the 2021 season. And if you are confused about how to feel about how Patrick Corbin did on Saturday, you're not alone. I think we're all confused. His final line ends up being 3 runs in 6 innings. On the one hand, he looked really bad in giving up a triple, a double, and 2 singles in a 2-run Marlins first. And he then allowed a leadoff homer in the bottom of the 5th. But on the other hand, he finished with 6 strikeouts versus no walks. He threw 55 of his 77 pitches for strikes, and he retired 16 of the final 17 Marlins batters he faced. He either looked awful or he looked outstanding on Saturday. He initially looked awful. Bottom of the 1st, Corbin gave up 2 runs as it was batting practice for the Marlins. Corbin gave up a leadoff triple to Jazz Chisholm Jr., an RBI ground out to Starlin Marte, a 1-out double to Jesus Aguilar, and a 2-out first pitch RBI single to Miguel Rojas. Corbin then gave up a 2-out first pitch single to Jesus Sanchez. Corbin's 4-seam fastball got pounded in that 2-run Marlins first inning. But Corbin then retired 10 consecutive Marlins batters.
And Corbin has his 3rd consecutive 1-2-3 inning. Patrick has retired 10 in a row. 5th inning coming up.
He did give up a leadoff homer to John Birdie in the bottom of the 5th on an opposite field shot to right field. Although, if you're familiar with the Marlins ballpark, that's kind of like the soft spot in the ballpark. The Birdie homer only went 352 projected feet per StatCast. So it's not like that was a moonshot by Birdie. It was a homer. And Birdie, by the way, has killed the Nats in this series. But, that wasn't some homer that makes you feel just awful about the way Corbin's going. And then Corbin was back to being dominant. He retired each of the final 6 Marlins batters he faced. So, yeah, really bad start. But truthfully, the rest of the outing was actually quite good. Now, 3 runs in 6 innings is nothing to celebrate. And especially when you consider that the Marlins are not a very good hitting team, I'm not going to, put this down as like some really good outing for Patrick Corbin. But it's something that could have been a lot worse. I mean, again, with as bad as things looked in that 2-run Marlins first inning, this was trending toward being another, if not blow-up start for Patrick Corbin, than an ugly start, a really bad start. 4 runs in 3 innings, 5 runs in 5 innings, that kind of a thing. It ended up not being that. Technically it's a quality start, which is a stat I hate. 3 runs in 6 innings translates to a 4.50 ERA. There's nothing quality about that. But the outing could have been a lot worse. I do give Corbin a lot of credit for settling himself down and not allowing the outing to become a blow-up start. Now, it's all relative here, right? You look at Corbin, and he still should be in a much better place than where he's at right now. Patrick Corbin now has made 15 starts this season. He has an ERA of 5.33, okay? That is nothing but extremely disappointing. A 5.33 ERA over 15 starts. I mean, that's basically half a season, right? A starting pitcher makes about 30 starts in a year, give or take. If he's healthy the whole year, a little more than 30 starts. 5.33 ERA is unacceptable for a guy who was in year 3 of a 6-year, $140 million deal. And for a guy who is, far from ancient. I mean, this is only Corbin's age 31 season. One of the big picture issues for the Nats remains what has happened to Patrick Corbin. So good in his first season with the team in 2019, so bad in the abbreviated 2020 season, and for the most part, bad so far this year. Has been better lately. Corbin came into the game having been actually quite good over his previous 2 starts, a combined 3 runs in 14 and the 3rd innings on 14 strikeouts. This to me was a mixed game, again, especially against a Marlins team that isn't a very good offensive team. But I did like that Corbin, as the game went on, was better, and there were some things to like. I mean, 6 strikeouts versus no walks, you like. Throwing 55 to 77 pitches for strikes, you like. Corbin has had outings this season in which he's had a hard time throwing strikes. That was not the case in this game on Saturday. And then from a bullpen standpoint, Davey Martinez ends up using 2 relievers in this game. I guess that's one of the nice things when you lose on the road. You only have to eat up 8 innings in terms of your pitching staff. But 2 Nats relievers in this game combined for 2 scoreless innings. Austin Voth, a scoreless bottom of the 7th. Despite getting into some trouble, he gave up a 2-out double to John Birdie. There's that name again. Also issued a wild pitch and then issued a 2-out 7-pitch walk of Garrett Cooper, despite him having been down in the count at one point, 1-2. But again, ultimately a scoreless bottom of the 7th for Voth. And then Tanner Rainey tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th inning that included a 4-pitch strikeout of Jesus Aguilar for the 2nd out. The Nats needed this from the bullpen, given how leaky the pen had been over the first two games of this series. That 7-3 win at the Marlins on Thursday night. Two Nats relievers combining to allow 3 runs in 2 innings. The culprit, Justin Miller, who, as you may recall, gave up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th, gave up that 3-run homer to Jazz Chisholm Jr., despite him having been down in the count of 1.02. And then in the 11-2 loss at the Marlins on Friday night, 4 Nats relievers in that game combining to allow 4 runs, 3 earned in 5 2/3 innings. So good to see the bullpen put up nothing but zeros in this game on Saturday. I mean, even with Corbin struggling in the first inning, pitching wasn't the problem. Run prevention was not the problem. Offense was the problem for the Nationals again this season in this loss on Saturday at the Marlins. Game 4 at the Marlins Sunday afternoon at 1:10. Very good pitching matchup. Max Scherzer versus Sandy Alcantara. Alcantara is another one of these Marlins starting pitchers who doesn't get a lot of press, but who has been good so far this season. We saw one of these guys in the 11-2 loss on Friday night in Pablo Lopez. Alcantara this season has an ERA of 2.93 over 16 starts. He's been a real innings eater, and obviously he has been a run preventer. Scherzer, of course, is having a very good season, coming off what he did in that 3-2 Nats win at the Philadelphia Phillies on Tuesday night. Now, remember that game, that was Max's return from the 10-day injured list, which he'd been on with groin inflammation, only ended up missing 1 start. Remember, that was also the game in which we had all of the drama with Joe Girardi and Max being checked for the sticky stuff and everything like that. But in terms of the actual baseball played in that game, Max only lasted for 5 innings. He threw 106 pitches. Now, he was good in the game. 1 run in 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, but he just threw a lot of pitches. 106 pitches over the 5 innings, 70 strikes versus 36 balls. So you would like to see Max be more pitch efficient in this game on Sunday afternoon. I tend to think he will be. I mean, Max only lasting for 5 innings is not something that we're used to, and he really has been good this year. I've said this, and I really mean this. I think this is kind of an underappreciated reality of the national season, that Max Scherzer is back to being Cy Young Max. And so when you talk about the Nats really needing this game on Sunday, I mean, to lose 3 or 4 at the Marlins would be really disappointing, given how well the Nats had been doing. You know, they dug themselves in this hole this season, have climbed out of it with this recent surge, but you drop 3 or 4 at the Marlins, and it's like, you know, you've taken all these steps forward, and then you end up taking multiple steps back with what goes down at Miami. So nobody better than Scherzer to try to stop the bleeding, try to stop the losing, with him going for the Nats on Sunday. Scherzer on the season, 14 starts, an ERA of 2.19, a whip of 0.826. Just awesome. I mean, Cy Young caliber Max Scherzer we have seen so far this year. No reason to expect anything different. And as long, I guess, as he can avoid a bad first inning. We saw a bad first inning for John Lester on Friday night, a bad first inning for Patrick Corbin on Saturday. We have at times seen Max get God in first innings. So if he could just avoid that, I think this could very easily end up being, you know, one of these Max Scherzer games, 7 innings, 8 innings, 2 runs or less, you know, double-digit strikeout total, that sort of a thing. In terms of the National League East standings, the Nats now are 5 games behind the NL East leading New York Mets, but the Nats do remain alone in second place. It was a wild Saturday in the NL East. The Mets beat the Philadelphia Phillies 4-3 on Saturday. The game was tied at 2 entering the 9th inning. The Phillies scored a run in the top of the 9th off Edwin Diaz, but the Mets then scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th off Hector Neris, who now has 6 blown saves this season. This Phillies bullpen every season is a problem, and once again this season we're seeing the bullpen be a problem. And by the way, listen to how the Mets scored the 2 runs on Saturday. A fielding error by Rhys Hoskins, 2 walks, a single, and a walk-off sac fly by Michael Conforto.
Bottom of the 9th. Phillies 3, Mets 3, bases loaded, 1 out. Crowd standing. 1-2 to Conforto. Neris deals. Breaking ball line to center. Going back on it, Herrera. He makes the catch. Here comes McKinney. Here's the throw to the plate. Head first slide. He scores! And the Mets win the ball game. Put it in the books.
I mean, you talk about nickel and diming a team to death. You talk about death by 1,000 paper cuts. 2-run bottom of the 9th for the Mets on an error, 2 walks, a single, and a walk-off sac fly. Also on Saturday, the Atlanta Braves lost at the Cincinnati Reds 4-1. But the big news with the Braves, and this is a big one, Mike Soroka done for the season as he has again torn his right Achilles tendon. This is unreal. He initially tore the right Achilles tendon last August. The Braves have announced that he retore the right Achilles on Thursday while simply walking into the home clubhouse at Truist Park. I mean, how does that happen? And what's odd is we actually have heard of things like this happening. D'Angelo Hall, the former Washington defensive back years ago, retore his Achilles, supposedly while he was like walking to the door at his home to get a pizza or something like that. Like, so guys do this, but man, that is a killer for the Atlanta Braves that Soroka now is out for the rest of this season. He had not yet pitched in the majors this season, as he also had dealt with right shoulder inflammation that necessitated exploratory surgery back in May. Mike Soroka has made 3 regular season starts since the end of the 2019 season. He, in that 2019 season, was so good. ERA at 2.68 over 29 starts, but now he is out the rest of the season for the Braves. So, look, bad news for Atlanta. That is good news for the Nationals, and an underwhelming National League East continues to be underwhelming. 4 of the 5 teams in the division have losing records. I mean, this division is there for the taking. The Mets are the lone team with a winning record. I think the Mets are a good team. They are far, though, from a great team. You know, this division is still waiting, begging for someone to rise up and grab it by the throat. And so from that perspective, the Nats are very much in it. I mean, they are in second place, 74 games into their season. And for all of the Nationals' flaws, I mean, they still have the worst run differential in the division at -16. The Nats are right there. Got to get this win, though, on Sunday with Max Scherzer starting at the Marlins to avoid dropping 3 or 4 at Miami. Well, you can always email us your questions either in written form or via voice memo. Our email address at the Nats Chat Podcast is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Voice memos are very easy, as I'm sure many of you already know. You just simply record yourself speaking into your smartphone, and then you can email that file to us. We got the following from our guy, Tim. Let's take a listen to what Tim has to say.
Hey guys, this is Tim Newmark. I've been enjoying your show. Haven't missed one yet. My question to you is, why not get rid of John Lester and his 5.0 ERA and call up Cade Cavalli? What's the worst he can do? Have a 4.5 ERA? Would like your thoughts on that.
All right, Tim, thank you for the question. My man Tim does not want to wait for the top prospect in the Nationals farm system, one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball, Cade Cavalli. I hear you, Tim, and I will say what I have already said, and I very much believe it. I do think there's a really good chance we do see Cade Cavalli at the major league level at some point this season, probably sooner than a lot of people think, because inevitably this is what always happens with these top prospects. They are called up sooner than people anticipate. I don't think we're there just yet. I mean, he just did get promoted to the AA level. He's only made 2 starts for the Harrisburg Senators. So from a perspective of Cade Cavalli's development, I mean, you don't want to retard that. You don't want to throw him off by saying, okay, now come up to the majors, because John Lester's ERA all of a sudden has ballooned to 4.99. You want to develop this guy right, and you want it to be so that when he's called up to the majors, he stays at the majors. You want it to be that he can hit the ground running. And so I would rather say, okay, let's see if Lester can be a little bit better moving forward. I think he can be. I mean, it's not like Lester's gotten ravaged throughout this season. The numbers aren't pretty. That is true. But his previous start prior to the one on Friday night was actually quite good. And you'd like to think that Lester can pitch to the tune of maybe an ERA of 4 moving forward, which I think most people would accept. But yeah, man, I mean, the bigger picture here is I think Cade Cavalli's coming. He's on the charge. I would not be shocked at all if we see him in September, maybe even sooner, depending on how he does. But he has only made 2 starts for AA Harrisburg. The overall numbers for Cavalli so far this season, so he's made a total of 9 starts, 7 starts for the High A Wilmington Blue Rocks, 2 starts for the Harrisburg Senators, 9 starts, total of 52 in the 3rd innings, an ERA of 2.06. I mean, just outstanding. 88 strikeouts versus 20 walks. There is very little not to like with Cade Cavalli. He was taken by the Nationals with the 22nd overall pick in the 2020 draft out of the University of Oklahoma. It has been forever since the Nationals drafted, successfully developed, and then reaped the benefits of a starting pitcher at the major league level. Like the Nats drafted and I guess you could say developed Lucas Giolito at least to some extent, but then traded him away. He ended up blossoming with the Chicago White Sox. But the Nats have not drafted, developed, and reaped the benefits of a starting pitcher in terms of a high-level starting pitcher really since Steven Strasburg. I mean, it's amazing when you say that out loud, but that is the truth. I mean, all these other guys, right? Like Max Scherzer was acquired via free agency. Patrick Corbin was acquired via free agency. Someone like, Doug Fister was traded for, that kind of a thing. The Nats have got to get back to successfully drafting, developing, and reaping the benefits of starting pitchers. And hopefully Cade Cavalli can be someone who initiates that. There are some others, someone like a Jackson Rutledge, but Cavalli's the guy right now. That's the number one guy in the system, and that's someone who, like we said, can be of benefit to the Nats at the major league level this season. I very much do believe that. He's got to keep doing well, though. He has done so well so far this year. Well, you tell us what you think. You can email us, like I said, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to become a sponsor of the Nats Chat Podcast. Just contact the man behind all of this, Tim Shovers. You can always tweet us as well, @Nats_chat. I'm on Twitter, @AlGaldi. Mark Zuckerman is on Twitter, @MarkZuckerman. Please, if you don't already subscribe to the podcast, consider subscribing to the podcast. And if you haven't already, give the podcast a 5-star rating and just write like a 1-sentence review. Doing those things helps out the podcast a lot. It's been a ton of fun doing the show. It's been a lot of fun interacting with so many of you guys. We've gotten some really good download numbers lately, which we appreciate so much. We want to continue to grow. The movement continues, and we want to keep it moving here, keep it growing here with you on the Nats Chat Podcast. You can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt by going to natschatpodcast.square.site. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. I'm Al Galdi. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
And a 1-2 offering Paul takes, and that's a called third strike on the inside corner. 3 strikeouts in the inning for Cavalli.